Here we are with another Snow Only podcast. Today we are going to be discussing is ski real estate a good investment? And today I'm delighted to have Steve Hamilton from David Lloyd Signature Homes. Steve, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience to give the listeners some confidence in what you're saying?
Oh, hiya, Mark. Delighted to be here. Many thanks for the invite. Yeah, I'm Steve Hamilton. I've been in this industry for many years. About 30 years ago, all started out in Singapore. We worked for the company that franchised the Hard Rock cafes, and we're building office blocks and developing all sorts of wonderful projects. Went on after that to work in the Spanish business, which really was a baptism by fire. Amazing boom times, looking after many deals. Ended up working for LSL, which is one of the largest, LSL, Your Move, one of the largest estate agency groups in the UK, over 400 branches. And so I was looking after that relationship. And now I've landed the dream job for me, working in French real estate in the French Alps for David Lloyd Signature Estate. So lots of experience from me. More importantly, lots and lots of experience from all my colleagues who are in resort as well.
Yeah, I bet. So what we're going to discuss today, and as I said before, I know it's a very big question in terms of, is ski real estate a good investment? There are so many parameters to this in terms of budget, ownership, location, but we'll just try and have a kind of general chat to see obviously where we can get from. I guess the first question is which areas do you kind of actually, let me go back in terms of kind of like a price per annum appreciation for all the French ski resorts. Have you seen that consistently over the last 10, 20 years? How have you kind of seen it and taken a feel for it in your experience?
Yeah, we've seen some strong capital growth over the past 4 years since I'm entering the fifth year in the ski market now. And these have been interesting years, haven't they? With COVID, we have the advent of clients who are actually buying online and buying over the internet. And we've seen a steady rise. But if you look back over the past 20 years, these properties in these blue chip areas tend to appreciate. What you find in a great ski resort is it doesn't necessarily get bigger. And we certainly tend to build in areas where we're redeveloping an existing site. So you're right in the center, you're in the best area. I can imagine if you buy a property a few miles down the road, it's in a village, and perhaps you have to take a bus to get the ski bus, etc. It's not going to move much. But these assets do move, and they tend to move not at ridiculous rates, because you're going into a mature market. It's a bit like investing in blue chip Britain or Kensington or somewhere, but you're getting 2s, 3s, 4s, maybe 5% a year. And this compounds throughout your ownership of this property.
What that's interesting, Steve. What do you say to people that are very unsure of where they want to be in terms of ski resort? They don't really understand the market, but they are looking for a good investment. It's always a good investment, right, for everyone. What's your advice for them?
It was interesting. We never sell it or market it as an investment, but it is. I'm obviously an advocate of property for an investment, but you're always looking, for amortization. You're looking to pay off this investment. Get it rented out and hold on to this investment. And then it becomes something very valuable. And one day it just pays you. You don't owe it anything. You're not paying back any mortgage. You haven't got any restrictions as far as the VAT reclaim is, and everything works perfectly for you. Saying that, you've got to stay in the best areas. And so people we'll get a lot of clients, Mark, that will say, I'm totally in love with San Juan or Léger, or we always go to Val d'Isère. And they go there and they've had the most spectacular time and everything was perfect. So they go there again and again and again. But, you can imagine in our position, we get to see all these resorts. And it's interesting when you say, where would you put your own money? golly, you know, there's so many that you love, and there's so many good places to go. We're seeing a lot of, you know, there's a burgeoning sort of summer market now, health and wellness, and we're seeing a lot of
Yeah,
families that perhaps, and you know, the Mediterranean may be a wee bit too hot in the summer, a bit too busy. You know, there's a lot you can do in the mountains. You've got these beaches built onto the lakes. All the lifts are open for the mountain bikes and everything. So these areas, a lot of them in and around Geneva, you might go to the Port du Soleil, are fantastic for the summer as well.
yeah,
But saying that,
yeah.
you know, if you can travel a few miles further into the Alps, everything's open in the summer now. So it really is becoming quite a long season. So lots and
Where,
lots of areas that I'd recommend. And it really
yeah,
just depends on budget. You know, there's other areas where people say, right, okay, Steve, you know, we want to be snowshore, if you like. We want to be in a higher altitude, you know, and then, you know, we're looking at places like Alpe d'Huez or La Plagne and areas where you're going to get a longer ski season.
if you, Steve, because obviously you were advising all these people along the way, if you forget about lifestyle, which is obviously a big pull for people being in the French Alps, if you were looking at something that was, if you were trying to give advice to people as an investment, if we stay along those topics, would you typically advise the closer it is to the slopes is the better investment, and the further it is the worst investment, as some sort of barometer? How would you answer that one?
Yes, I think you've got to be in the. It's location, 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 isn't it? It's that old adage. And if
Yeah,
you think what you know, you, I, our friends would want when we go skiing, that's exactly where you want to buy. And we're
yeah,
developing in these areas. We're selling in these areas that are right near the ski lifts, so right near the center of town.
yeah,
That, you know, if they might have facilities like a pool or a spa. If not, they'll be very close. Everything will be very accessible. So I'd always say, yeah, get as many square meters as you can in the best area, because that's exactly what you're going to want and enjoy. Because, you know, like I say, if you want a great property investment, you've got to hold it. You know,
yeah,
amortization is that key. So you want something you're
yeah.
going to be happy and not grow out of. And you know, very importantly, if you want it as an investment, you want your clients to be going there and enjoying it. They don't want something that's a bit of a trek to get into the bars, restaurants, shops, ski lifts.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I used to work for a ski company that sold ski holidays, and I always remember no one ever rung up and said we'd like a chalet 10 minutes walk away, with no
Yeah,
facilities. You know, like, people just don't ask that question, do they?
no,
People always ask the question. We want to be right on the slopes, whether it's young people, older people, or family. You know, I have a family, and you know, typically your son would want to carry your skis. So even for that sense, you want to be close to the slopes to be able to transition everything over straight away. So just to reiterate, so from an investment point of view, regardless whether it's apartments, because obviously typically you get more apartments that are close to the slopes and chalets maybe further away because of the land costs, etc. Even from an investment point of view, you would advise people to go into an apartment that is closer to the slopes rather than a chalet that was maybe a slightly bigger, and you get slightly bigger land that's slightly further away.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of apartments, and also, you know,
Yeah,
our clients who are
lock and lead
investing in
kind
these.
of thing.
Well, the clients that invest in these sort of properties, Mark, are busy people. So when they lock the
Yeah,
door, they want to forget about it. They want it rented. They don't want to be worrying about it. They want it in a secure environment. These apartments now, you know, it's funny. Years and years ago, people used to ask more for the luxuries, maybe the hot tub. Nowadays, they ask me for the view and the parking. It's so essential. And I think,
Parking, very good actually. Parking is for a lot of people I've spoken to, it's such a big thing now. I can understand why people ask.
yeah, it's amazing. We can sort of I have a little graph of every car and how many square meters it is, and they're saying, right, I'm driving this, that, and the other. Can I get this in? And pretty much every development we build, you could stick a Range Rover in there. But
Yeah,
you've got to be good at parking. But it'd be nice to
yeah,
have
yeah,
a little Fiat or something. But you can stick a Range Rover in there. I mentioned the view. So often now, people are saying, Steve, I'm going to be working down there, and the dream was to be on the laptop. And when I look out the window, I'm looking at snow-covered mountains, and then I'm back to work. So a lot of people are saying, I want a great terrace, I want a great view. And for that, I say, right, get into an apartment development and get in there as early as possible so you can pick the best orientation, the best view. And quite often, the earlier stage of a project, you get a better price as well.
that's a really interesting one. I knew that there'd be lots of tangents and places to go once we started speaking. In terms of the investment, as we stick to it, you're obviously advising people to get into investments early to obviously get the best prices. Again, that's what you would advise people, just to get in early to get the best prices. And my second question is that, and is there a case of an investment where people have tried to flip it before the investment has built and then sell it on the prices next, or do people tend to hold it a little bit longer?
Well, the whole point for the investment is to hold it. So
Yeah,
we certainly we have had people that have sold developments after delivery very early. We've had projects that have been a phenomenal success, or we've had projects where perhaps clients have had a change of circumstance and they've sold them. But we have a market of people that are absolute ski connoisseurs. This is a dream of theirs as well as an investment. We can finance these with the big French banks even as they're being built. So people
yeah,
are holding on to them for many, many years. And
yeah,
certainly, as I keep banging on about it, amortization is the way you make money out of property. You got to
yeah,
hold it, pay off for it, and then it looks after you. You've looked after
yeah,
it for many years, and it will look after you in perpetuity. We can set you up, depending on how you want to structure this, how you want to buy this, whether it be in a company, you're splitting it with your family, it's in a family trust. There's all sorts of things that we can chat about and assist with, and
yeah.
see if it works well for our clients.
Yeah, there's a really interesting. As I explained to you before, I've been in real estate generally as a broker for the last 25 years or so, and one of the things that really interests me in terms of everyone talking about an investment property, I always kind of feel like the investment is only as good as it is its liquid asset,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
in terms of people buying the properties and let's say let's say a typical situation where you're getting early for a development, when they go to sell it, I assume the markets that you work in the French Alps, everything is relatively liquid. You don't get a situation generally where properties on the market for 5, 6, 7 years or whatever it is, where they sometimes have to drop the asking price and the investment isn't so good. You kind of feel like these markets are pretty strong in terms of if someone goes to sell it, it's reasonably sellable.
Yeah, incredibly so. Yeah. France is a great place. It's a benign tax regime. We've seen post Brexit a lot of money that used to flow in from other parts of the world, perhaps into the UK, perhaps into London real estate, is now moving
Yeah,
to France, and it's moving to Paris, it's moving to the Côte d'Azur, and it's
yeah,
moving to the French Alps. So, we'll get clients now from the UAE, we'll get lots of clients from the Far East. I chat to people from all over the world, not just Europe. What I found over the last stretch as well, U.S. currency has been strong. You look at a ski pass in the Porte du Soleil, and it's half the price of the equivalent in the US. Half the
that's
price. So skiing's become prohibitive in some parts of the United States. So people are saying, actually, I can buy a great asset out in Europe, but more importantly, I've got something in euros. It's a stable currency. If I need to turn it back into money, that's very easy to do, and I can do that year in, year out.
Yeah, there was something that you said earlier that I just wanted to pick up on. So you were saying that a lot of people are now asking about, having that maybe dream of I want to work on my laptop, I want to see the view, all the things that don't really have a price, the beautiful views and all that kind of stuff. Plus, you talked about the apartments. Now, is there better investment in your head for buying an outright property in comparison to a leasehold property? Because it's the question that everyone seems to ask at some point. What's your take on the difference in terms of investment?
Yeah. So they're all freehold, but yeah, leaseback.
Leaseback.
You buy it and you give it back into the pool, and they lease the property out for you. Both can work very well. We have our stock predominantly at the moment is a freehold property that you can own, you can live in, you can do as you please, but you can enter it into a rental program and get the VAT back. And pretty much every client, Mark, at the moment, when I say at the moment, the last 3 years have been reclaiming the VAT and renting it out. We have post-Brexit. We know where we stand now. We can stay 90 days in every 180 days, so we can stay in 3 months tranches in Europe, and so it works very well for us because we're not going to be there for 6 months of the year. So we might as well get this asset working for us and help us towards the costs and eventually owning it outright.
And again, I always go back to it in terms of the investment, and there's no problem if people wanted to exit that rental commitment that they've made in terms of reselling it. That's been quite easy to do.
Yeah, very easy to do. The VAT, you're buying these properties, and if you buy a new build property, you're paying your biggest. We advertise some net of charges, a bit like you'd advertise property and Rightmove net of stamp duty. And so in France, you pay 20% VAT. Your VAT can be reclaimed, all of it, which is a huge chunk of money, if you rent it out. And then you do have to rent it out, and you are in this program for the next 20 years. But as I said, you're only there for 6 months a year max. If you can have that many days. And so you might as well be renting it anyway, and you can get that huge amount of money left. Now, say you want to sell it, you can either pay back the VAT you've reclaimed pro rata. So if you're 5 years in, you can pay back the 5 years worth that you've benefited from, or you can pass that on to the next owner, and they can keep using it. So either way, you can exit the program. People do it, week in, week out. This program has been running for many years. It's incredibly successful. And it's just born out of the fact that France is the busiest tourist destination in the world. There's not enough quality properties for people to rent. So the French government come up with this great scheme. We want you to own a property in France, but we don't want it sitting there dormant. So we'll give you back a huge chunk of money if you rent it out. So we can help you through this whole process. When you're buying, we can lead you through it and make sure you get the VAT back. You get it about 6 to 8 weeks after completion. So all very straightforward.
It's so important in these ski resorts to have a full ski resort, isn't it? And not like a ghost town. And I've definitely seen some developments that have been purchased and then no one lives in them. And they die of death, don't they? They're just very much ghost towns. Just so we're kind of on the subject. So typically if people are doing, while we're looking at rentals and typical ROI, as we mentioned before, a lot of the people's expectations, it's usually my first question to people that are looking to buy ski real estate in terms of the ROI that they're looking for. They have very high expectation. It's just important to set those expectations to a normal rate. I assume we are going to dispel the myth of 7, 8, 9% net return on a ski resort from rentals. What is realistic?
Yeah, I'd be delighted to dispel that myth. We're very lucky here at David Lloyd Signature Homes. Our clients are pretty sophisticated when it comes to their numbers, and they're not. You'll see some property investments that offer you, assured returns, offer you these amazing numbers, double-digit numbers, and fantastic. But that's not what we do. This is a great property in a blue chip area. you're going to yield anywhere net yield from 2.5 to 5 max. You're not going to get anywhere near these 9%. But what you're doing is you're buying a fantastic property in a blue chip area, and you're chipping away at it, and you're loving owning it. It's a fantastic investment that you can turn back into cash at any given time. And it's not, some spurious investment that's offering some incredible return, which may or not be realistic. I don't know. I'm not in that business, but
I think there's just sometimes a lot of comparison. It's funny. I guess these aren't genuine buyers when people say I can get X amount at I don't know, on the stocks or whatever it is, and it's like, well, if you're looking for that, I'm sure there's better investments in terms of getting more value for your money, but that's not always what we're doing here. There is a lifestyle side to it. There is a memories. There is a being in the mountains. There is the fresh air, all those kind of things that you're not going to get with buying stocks. So it's a different investment, but it's not to say that it's not a good investment. It just doesn't invest. It doesn't appreciate as much as something else. So
Mark, would see this as augmenting other investments. If someone came to me and said, Steve, I have X amount of money to invest, the first answer would be, I'm not qualified to chat about this, but I suppose they've got the option to go to the S&P. They've got gold, they've got the FTSE, they've got UK real estate. They might invest in property via a REIT. There's all sorts of things they can do if they want exposure to real estate or other investments that might bring them a better return. So this is always something, a lot of people are going to say, I can use and enjoy. It's a tangible asset. I can touch it, I can use it, and I can always liquidate it if I have to. So it's usually our clients have a myriad of other investments, and they may have other stock, shares, bonds that may be low risk, high risk, that are bringing them a higher percentage. Yeah, I get that. But it's always good to have something like this. And it's a huge investment in your life, in seeing your family. Eventually the family get to use it, and it doesn't owe anyone any money. It's good fun. It's not like some investments are incredible fun, but prohibitive to run. You may love having a racing yacht, but my goodness, you're never going to end up in a profit, are you?
No, and I've lived in quite a few marinas, and there's a few disgruntled boat owners, that is for sure. Just one thing actually that I keep on coming back to, or you keep on mentioning in terms of the blue chip resorts. I'm quite interested on this because as an investment point of view, as we're kind of sticking to, when you're talking about blue chip resorts, are you talking the likes of maybe the more well-known ones like the Maribels, the Courchevelles, the Morzine, all that kind of thing? And I guess the second question is it still, would you still advise someone to invest in these resorts, or would you consider investing in maybe a smaller satellite resort that hasn't materialized as much, but now they're starting to build links towards maybe a bigger resort? The Arlberg, for example, in Austria was kind of sectioned up, and now it's kind of all one thing. And I'm sure people would find appreciation. Even in London, my friend bought in at one place, and then they started the Queen Elizabeth line, and now suddenly it's worth so much money, right? Is there an opportunity in ski real estate where you can maybe say a smaller satellite versus a more well-known resort where you would get the better investment?
I think that's a splendid place to put your money. So you're a satellite, you're a smaller village, part of a great ski domain. You're in these like Port de Soleil, Three Valleys, some of the biggest ski domains on the planet. You may be in Paradis Ski in Le Plan. An example would be Montalbert, Le Plan. You're at 1350. They put in a new lift several years ago. So now you can link up all to the crazy fun up in Le Plan proper. You've got this winter wonderland, but you can also take the lift back down, and you can invest in a ski in, ski out property in a smaller village that has a few wonderful restaurants and a big supermarket and great links down to the town where you have the medical center, tennis, golf, everything you want. So Yeah, I think these things, you don't want to be in the sort of middle of nowhere on a street that may be leading to a ski resort in a few kilometers. That's not really going to change in value in real terms ever. But if it's all linked up, like you say, you mentioned the Elizabeth line. This is the French equivalent, isn't it? They're putting in these tele cabins and high-speed lifts. And if you look at the projects over these great ski domains over the past, well, you go back the past 10, 20 years, you can see there's something being planned all the time. And they're always linking up some great area, some great village, and just making it more accessible. And you get to live there and you get to know, it's a bit like snakes and ladders. You get to know, well, actually, during this season, I can beat the crowds by going this way. During the less busy times, I can go into the village and have a coffee and maybe a little breakfast and go up that way. And so it's all sorts of fun once you get to know the areas. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. Well, I'm a huge fan. I mentioned that Montalbert because it's where I put my own money. I think that
no way. It's where it was where I had my first ever ski holiday. No, actually, that was Verbier. My second ski holiday with my friends was in Montalbert a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, you go up there, and there's so much skiing above 2,000 meters. So to me, it's all about the skiing. And then in the summer, I just rent it. But I want to take as many weeks now as possible. And you look at the snow cams, and people are skiing today. It's a fabulous long season there.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that still the question is if you had to invest in one, just to kind of put you on the spot, would you probably, as you said, you did do that. So I guess the question answered, you'd prefer to invest in maybe a smaller satellite resort compared to if you had an unlimited budget to maybe invest as an investment, not as a lifestyle, as investment into, so I don't know, centre of Meribel or centre of La Plan. You'd prefer to go the Montalbert. You think it's got a little bit more chance to appreciate.
That worked well for me, but it's a longer drive. Really, you're flying into Geneva, and the lovely thing about Geneva, it's not going anywhere. You get a cheap flight there, 365 days a year. It's easy peasy to get into France. But a lot of these resorts in the Porte du Soleil, I think, are fabulous, where you sort of ski. The next thing you know, you're skiing in Switzerland, you're skiing in France, and there's some wonderful villages in and around Morzine, Léger, Châtel. I think they're fantastic places to invest as well. If you look at the Grand Massif, again, very accessible for Geneva, San Juan, fantastic, pretty, one of the prettiest villages in France, and just surrounded by mountains. So there's a myriad of places I would have stuck my money, but I quite like driving, and I love chatting to clients in the car. So to me, that 2.5 hour drive from Geneva to get to Montalbert is never downtime. I by the time I get there, I probably, the way I work it out in my head, I've done a bit of work. I can go off skiing for a couple of hours.
That's a good way to. That's a great way to look at things. But it does let me ask a question on this. So before you said and we can see it through SnowOnly as well. Like there's a lot of people that come from. There's people looking to buy properties in France, from Singapore, Hong Kong. The Middle East, definitely further afield. We just had one guy that flew over from Australia and bought a property in Italy, which is just crazy. But do you think that then as an investment, it's specifically for France, it would be better to invest in properties that are reasonably close to Geneva? Because obviously we always have these things about Chambry, about the plane landing, et cetera. Do you think that there's better appreciation in the likes of Morzine and Chamonix because of the accessibility from Geneva, or do you not think it makes too much difference?
Geneva's a huge pull, and it's a delightful airport. It's always easy to get in and out of Geneva. More importantly, you've got your EasyJet and your cheap flights for us, but you've got flights coming in. You'll sit there in that airport and you'll see flights from all over the globe. So it's a global destination. It's designed to look after people, to get them through it quickly, and we'll have flights there from Hong Kong every day. We have flights from New York every day. So it really is a fabulous place to go and to invest for people anywhere in the world. And we are finding a lot of people. We're having a lot of expats working perhaps out in the UAE and everything, and they don't necessarily want a place back in England, but they want a place back in Europe, and they're looking at ski properties as well. And a lovely time to come when it's baking hot, maybe out in Dubai. You're in the mountains, and it's wonderful, great climate during the day. You can swim in the lakes and the beaches they build down there. But in the evenings, it's just a wonderful temperature. You don't need air conditioning blasting away all the time.
Yeah. There's just one more question I want to ask. I told you this would happen. We've been speaking for half an hour already. In terms of altitude, because we always kind of have to cover it, it's always an interesting one for me because I've spoken to a lot of agents recently, and there seems to be a lot more demand because people are talking about climate change, etc., that they want to get something, say, at least over 1,600 meters, if that's a barometer. 1,600 meters. There's obviously demand for teen Vouterens, 2,001, 2,400 meters. But then obviously you that all gets a bit dispelled when you look at the likes of Chamonix, which obviously always has people there, and it's at about 900, I think the town is. Maybe someone's going to correct me, but it's I lived there for a year, so it's around there. In terms of investment at the moment, would you advise people to go a little bit higher in terms of a snowshore resort, or is something dual season gazumping that kind of theory, and you want something that's somewhere in the middle? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting when you actually live there, and our team live there and work there and ski all the time. And if you look at, say, sort of mid-level resorts and up, that's where people are investing. Nothing lower. So if you look at Louisa, who runs our operation in the Porte du Soleil, because you live there, if there's ever a week where there's not brilliant snow, there's going to be weeks that you just basking in snow up to your knees. It's a much different prospect when you live there and you own it yourself. There's amazing snowmaking facilities in all these resorts now, but as far as the snowshore resorts are concerned, Alpe d'Huez and Le Plan and places like this are very popular with people maybe like myself, where it's all about the skiing. But mid-level and above is where we go. So I'd go into the Porte du Soleil and some of the higher resorts if you're just like me, just obsessed with skiing for as many hours as possible.
Yeah, and just to cover it, Steve, before we go, what areas do you and David Lloyd Signature Homes specialise in? Where are you, in case someone's listening and wants to have a chat with you about a certain area? What's your parameters of where you?
So we cover the whole of the French Alps. We have places in Mirabeau, we have places in Paradis Ski, Grand Massif, we're in Three Valleys and Porte du Soleil. So we cover a fantastic scope of properties and opportunities. We don't sort of take orders, if you like, when a client says, I want particularly this in this village. We pick the developments first from the bespoke, top-notch developers that are selling in the best areas with the best quality products. You have these new thermo insulated properties, and then they clad them with these old materials so they blend in with the village, but you're getting a great property, A-rated in a splendid area. So we've always picked the best resorts, the best developments we can in each resort, but we can look after our clients over all sorts of resorts. What we would do, and what my office does here in the UK, is we're never sort of selling anything. We're just listening to what our clients enjoy, how they're going to use it, if they're going to rent it, how the family works, whether they're going to work there, what may be best for them as financing this, or be it a family trust or a straight mortgage or a equity release from the UK. So we're looking at all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that work for these families. And then we could suggest a few places, and we'd be delighted to meet them as they go down to these places. If it's a very broad a scope of properties people are looking at, what we tend to do is kick it off with a few Zoom meetings, show you the village, get a feeling for it. It's wonderful. It's very easy nowadays, isn't it? I can talk about, San Juan, and we can take you down there, walk you around the village, show you the views, take you up on a ski lift, and people can quickly feel if they think they're going to enjoy a destination or not. And then we can work further, meet you in resort, show you a few different areas, and take it from there. But you really are, it's a massive domain. The French Alps, it's a great place to buy. You're buying in euros. It's easy to buy. It's easy to sell. Notaries work for clients. They don't work for us, agents. So everyone's very safe and very looked after. So really, you've got, it's a bit like if, we buy somewhere in the UK because our job or our family or historical ties. But if we just came to the UK, and you might say, oh, I love Cheltenham, I love Bath, I love Edinburgh, I love Kensington, I love Brighton. There'd be so many great places to live. And you can imagine, as we know, the Alps is like that. It's you spoiled for choice. You almost got to pick one that works best for you. Quite often, it may be the proximity to Geneva, and it may be the accessibility to cheap flights to get there easily all the time.
I do like that concept of a real estate agent of it's your job to kind of pick the best developments, and then when people say, I'd like to go this, and you're like, well, I've already picked the best ones. If you want to go somewhere else, fair enough, but this is the ones, that we've done the research beforehand, so you don't have to kind of go off, this is what we recommend, these are kind of the great ones. Do people just, I keep on having a final question, but it's always stuff comes into my head. Do you, just as a kind of final one, are a lot of people asking for an investment, just to kind of wrap it up? Or is it still kind of like the lifestyle thing that people have? Are people kind of saying like, look, we just want an investment or something? Or is it just like, we just want a ski property and not worried about the investment?
Predominantly a ski property, lifestyle, people very active, families want to be busy, summer, winter, they want great activities. They want more than ski. They want the swimming, the whitewater rafting, the tennis, mountain bike. There's a plethora of opportunities up there in the mountains. So very much lifestyle and enjoying their lives and the dream of owning in the mountains. A lot of people need to, and rightfully so, justify it as a business case. And as we mentioned before, we can allude to them in investing in stock shares, bonds, gold, whatever. They'll have that already. So they want to see that this can work a bit for them. They can take the heat out of it as they're heading towards that eventual goal of owning it lock, stock, and barrel. So they will want to see the business case as well. And we're very, very happy to chat about that and show them the numbers. I think initially, you mentioned before, when people are saying, right, I want 9%, 10%, they quite respect the fact that we say, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. And if you're being offered these sort of returns, or you're being offered them on assured returns, that's fair enough. That's not what we deal with. We can't really talk about that, but we can talk about what we know and what these values are, where we see them growing. If you hold an asset for 20 years, will it double? Yes, it could easily in those 20 years, but more likely it's gone up by about 50%. And along that road, you've paid for it. So it becomes something that looks after you in years to come, or looks after your family. So from that and wonderful lifestyle and enjoying the mountains, I would say that it really is a blue chip investment.
I think that's a good way to kind of leave it there, Steve. So I guess in answer to the question that we asked, is real estate a good investment? Absolutely. But plus, you get the lifestyle that comes with it.
Yeah, I concur.
Great. Steve, thank you so much for your time today. We're on 40 minutes already, as I thought it might happen. Thank you for your time today. I'll put in all the links and contact details for Steve if you have any questions for him. But Steve, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Mark, thank you. And delighted to chat to anyone. Many thanks.
No worries. Cheers, buddy.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.